The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
Welcome to the Ganja Gospel. We're now hooked up to the network. Shout out to Hellfire Radio. Still Toking with in the Dorkening.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Thank you to everybody who supports us, both on YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere else with the network.
Yeah, shout out to Facebook.
And all those links for all those amazing people and groups and organizations are in the description below. And welcome to Ganja Gospel, where we figure out the truth.
Welcome. Our whole purpose here is to figure out who you worship and who the hell it is. I'm rolling up some ganja. So we already smoked 2 joints, had a little witchy discussion. Our topic for today and our question to all of you is, if you are a religious person, what defines a witch to you, right? In your, say, so-called religion or your belief system, what is a witch to you? What do they do for you to classify them as a witch?
Yes, in your opinion. We'd love to hear from you in the comments section below all of the videos that we're on right now, platforms.
Yeah, all the people of the world.
Tell us, what is a witch to you?
Yes, what is a witch?
And those of you live watching us, welcome. If you want to join us live, most of us are in TwizTD RootZ YouTube channel, but we are all over the place as well.
And we have Ganja Gospel shirts available.
They will be on the
all
store
different
soon.
kinds, all different types, backgrounds, with backgrounds, without backgrounds, 80s themes, and all kinds of stuff. Hit us up.
Yes.
Where?
You can hit us up on the website. There are some things on sale. These are not on the website quite yet, but they will be on the store very soon. Yeah. I'm going to work on that. But
all of our show shirts will be available.
Yes, indeed. We will definitely go ahead and email us at thirdeyestrains@gmail.com for anything related to this right now. 3RDEYESTRAINZ. I will put it in chat.
That's a black weed, ain't it? True color.
Let me make a banner out of
purple
it.
Black.
That's probably what I want to do.
Smells like purple gas. This is sangria from Subcool. TGA seeds. TGA genetics. I forget who he is now. The Dank Seed Bank. But this is from when it was TGA.
My question. Oops, that was what I wanted.
You have a question for them?
I have a question. What is how many stoners do we have? I think most of us are. And what are we smoking on this beautiful Sunday afternoon or morning for you?
What are we smoking on for the Ganja Gospel today? Now, we do have a Ganja Gospel song, But if we do go play that, we will get the copyright, and we don't do that for the network.
No.
So I'm going to see down the road if somebody like Coffee Music or Panda Cat could possibly hook me up for a small donation, you know, or an even trade donation, some kind of music for the show. That would be super dope, because this is an ongoing thing here. You know, there's so much material, so many different rabbit holes we can discuss. We can spend one whole day on just Cain alone, one whole day on each one of these characters. I can spend a week on each one of these characters in this book. So, you know, we got Og of Bashan. We got the whole king of the world that went to the underground and found Noah. You know, all these different people. They fucking had a lion for a kitty cat. Who were these people? Did they walk the planet for real? You know, was Jesus a real person? What was he the same as we think he is? You know, who is God? And we're getting through all these questions, but we're going to start with a book that is the Lost Book of Enki. And this is interpreted through Zecharia Sitchin. And if you guys know any of this history, so Zecharia Sitchin was put basically in the back burners by all of science and blah, 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 all these historians, and saying he interpreted it wrong and it wasn't true, and it was the wrong interpretation or wrong depiction of the what it was being said. And so other people, scholars, learned the Sumerian cuneiform language and text and writing. And they found out that it says exactly what Zecharia Sitchin said it said. Right? It says exactly what he said it
Proved
said.
it.
So none of them, the ones that did go against it, have come back circle and said, no, this does say that. Shit. He's right. Because what it was this story is so unbelievable. It couldn't be real. That's what they were saying. It was so unbelievable that it couldn't say that. And when they learned cuneiform, they learned that it said that in more than they could ever imagine, because there's a shit ton of Sumerian tablets. There's a shit ton of Dead Sea Scrolls. There are shit tons of ancient text that now they can decipher. And it all talks about a different planet, different planets, different solar systems, right? Different probably galaxies, different beings that came here on spaceships, right? And did stuff on our planet and shit, right? They had wars and stuff. I mean, you guys ever sit there and be like, oh shit, like your dog farts and the evil wind comes flashing through. This happened on the planet. That's right. Why do you think they're so worried about a world war that ends in nuclear catastrophe? Because they remember when it happened on the planet before, and it killed everybody, killed everything. Everyone had to go underground until one day the planet fixed itself, and people came from underground through a hole and emerged into the world you see today, right? So they go, well, we just found this hole in China, and it's got all these ancient trees in it. We just found this hole in China, but it's got these ancient trees in it that are thousands of years old. You didn't just find that hole. That hole's been there. That's the hole your people came running out of when the fucking flood was over and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because we live on top of the mountain. So it took 150 years for that flood water to go down. They don't tell you that in the Bible. You act like it's a damn 40 day, 49, and then that damn water was gone. Nope. It was 150 years before that flood water went down. You can track Noah and his culture descending from the top of that mountain, building civilization as that water receded, and they showed the shorelines. It's insane. But what do we got here?
Well, we, like we said in the beginning, we have the Book of Enki by Zecharia Sitchin, and I'm going to be reading today It's going to be a little lengthier, I think, than the other ones that we have coming for at least this book and this one, because I have the introduction. I have
went through
an attestation. Well,
What's
this
it?
kind of
What's attestation?
well, it kind of prefaces all of everything, and then I have the words of Lord Enki, the first tablet. So
Okay.
I think it would be a good idea, since this is our, our very first Ganja Gospel on the network, to introduce it all in a certain fashion. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So forgive me if I stumble on a word or two, but here we go. Introduction to the Lost Book of Enki. Some 445,000 years ago, astronauts from another planet came to Earth in search of gold. Splashing down in one of Earth's seas, they waded ashore and established Eridu, home in the far away. In time, the initial settlement expanded to a full-fledged mission Earth, with a mission control center, a spaceport, mining operations, and even a way station on Mars. Short of manpower, the astronauts employed genetic engineering to fashion primitive workers, Homo sapiens. The deluge that catastrophically swept over the Earth required a fresh start. The astronauts became gods, granting mankind civilization, teaching it to worship. Then, about 4,000 years ago, all that had been achieved unraveled in a nuclear calamity, brought about by the visitors to Earth in the course of their own rivalries and wars. What had taken place on Earth, and especially the events since human history began, has been culled by Zecharia Sitchin in his The Earth Chronicles series. From the Bible, clay tablets, ancient myths, and archaeological discoveries, but what had preceded the events on Earth, what had taken place on the astronauts' own planet, Nibiru, that caused the space journeys, the need for gold, and creation of man. What emotions, rivalries, beliefs, morals, or the lack thereof, motivated the principal players in the celestial and space sagas? What were the relationships that caused mounting tensions on Nibiru and on Earth? What tensions arose between old and young, between those who had come from Nibiru and those born on Earth? And to what extent was what had happened determined by destiny, a destiny whose record of past events holds the key to the future? Would it not be auspicious were one of the key players an eyewitness and one who could distinguish between fate and destiny, to record for posterity the how and where and when and why of it all, the first things and perhaps the last things? But that is precisely what some of them did do, and foremost among them was the very leader who had commanded the first group of astronauts. Scholars and theologians. Thank you. That's a tough word. Alike now recognize that the biblical tales of creation of Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, the deluge, the Tower of Babel, were based on text written down millennia earlier in Mesopotamia, especially by the Sumerians. What's up, Twisted Sister and everybody else? Oh, shit, I lost my place. I knew I shouldn't have done that. And they, in turn, clearly stated that they obtained their knowledge of past events, many from a time before civilizations began, even before mankind came to be. From the writings of the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came, the gods of antiquity. As a result of a century and a half of archaeological discoveries in the ruins of the ancient civilizations, especially in the Near East, a great number of such early texts have been found. The finds have also revealed the extent of missing texts, so-called lost books, which are either mentioned to discover text or are inferred from such text, or that are known to have existed because they were cataloged in royal or temple libraries. Sometimes the secrets of the gods were partially revealed in epic tales, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, that disclosed in debate among the gods that led to the decision to let mankind perish in the deluge, or in a text titled Atrahasis. I don't know if I said
Atrahasis.
Atrahasis.
That was the one I was trying to say.
Okay.
That's what you're about to read here in a second.
Okay. Which recalled the mutiny of the Anunnaki, who had toiled in the gold mines that led to the creation of primitive workers, earthlings. From time to time, the leaders of the astronauts themselves authored compositions, sometimes dictating the text to a chosen scribe, as the text called the Era Epos, EPOS,
like epoch,
in which one of the two gods who had caused the nuclear calamity sought to shift the blame to his adversary.
Hold on, the what?
In which one of the two gods who had caused the nuclear calamity sought to shift the blame to his adversary.
Nuclear!
Sometimes the god acted as his own scribe. as is the case regarding the Book of the Secrets of Thoth, the Egyptian god of knowledge, which the god had secreted in a subterranean chamber. When the Lord God Yahweh, according to the Bible, granted the commandments to his chosen people, he had first inscribed in his own hand 2 stone tablets that he gave to Moses on Mount Sinai. When Moses threw down and broke that first set of tablets in response to the golden calf incident, the replacement set was written by Moses on the tablets, and Moses on the tablets on both their sides, when he stayed on the mount 40 days and 40 nights, recording the dictated words of the Lord.
And this is, let me pause you real quick. So when Moses was talking on the mountain, right, there was 2 gods he was talking to, and then it was Enki and Enlil. They're having a debate over mankind. And if you follow the story, we're going to get deep into that story, because they were worshiping idols, and that's why he broke the fucking commandments. And one god was requiring idol worship. The other god was requiring just to be a human, right? To love and be cool, right? So we're going to discover which god, I won't give it away, we're going to discover which god was which. And when he went down and saw the idol worship, he broke the tablets, and that's when one of the gods was like, fuck it, I'm out, I quit. He gave up, right? And we call him the Great Sleeper. And that's when Moses had to go up down the mountain, and he realized there was no God left talking to him, right? And he had to write down the 10 commandments. By what means? As he remembered them. Imagine God writing something. Imagine who you thought was God. He wrote something all down with a frequency pen, the finger of God, remember? And you came down, you broke the tablets and all the pieces, then you had to rewrite it by what I remember. Shit. He was on mushrooms. He was on weed. Oh, he had to pitch the tent and put the pillar of smoke up to call him to come down, because he was high up in the sky in the spaceship. He had to put the smoke signal up. They didn't have telephones back then, shit. He had to get on the shrooms so he could be enlightened enough to be in the presence of such high frequency power. And he wouldn't fucking melt his brain.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Were it not for a tale recorded on papyrus from the time of the Egyptian king Khufu, Cheops, concerning the Book of the Secrets of Thoth, the existence of that book would have not become known. Were it not for the biblical narratives in Exodus and Deuteronomy, we would have never known about the divine tablets and their contents. All would have become part of the enigmatic body of lost books, whose very existence would have never come to light. No less painful is the fact that in some instances, we do know that certain texts had existed, but are in the dark regarding their contents. Such is the case regarding the Book of the Wars of Yahweh and the Book of Jasher, Book of Jasher, Book of Righteousness, which are specifically mentioned in the Bible.
Jasher.
In at least 2 instances, the existence of olden books, earlier texts known as the biblical narrator, can be inferred. Chapter 5 of Genesis begins with the statement, "This is the book of the Toledoth of Adam." Toledoth of Adam.
Yes.
The term Toledoth being usually translated as generations, but more accurately meaning historic or genealogical record.
Yes.
The other instance is in chapter 6 of Genesis, where the events concerning Noah and the deluge begin with the words, "These are the Toledoth of Noah." Indeed, partial versions of a book that became known as the Book of Adam and Eve have survived over the millennia in Armenian, Slavonic, Syriac, and Ethiopic languages. And the Book of Enoch, one of the so-called apocryphal books that were not included in the canonized Bible, contains segments that are considered by scholars to be fragments from a much earlier Book of Noah. An oft-quoted example of the extent of lost books is that of the famed Library of Alexandria in Egypt, established by the general Ptolemy after Alexander's death in 323 BC. It was said to have contained more than 500,000 volumes, books, and inscribed on a variety of materials, clay, stone, papyrus, and parchment. That great library, where scholars gathered to study the accumulated knowledge, was burnt down and destroyed in wars that extended from 48 BC to the Arab conquest in AD 642. What has remained of its treasures is a translation of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible into Greek, and fragments retained in the writings of some of the library's resident scholars. It is only thus that we know that the second king Ptolemy commissioned circa 270 BC an Egyptian priest whom the Greeks called Manetho to compile the history and prehistory of Egypt. At first, Manetho wrote only the gods reigned here, there, then demigods, and finally, circa 3100 BC, pharaonic dynasties began. The divine reigns, he wrote, began 10,000 years before the flood and continued for thousands of years thereafter, the latter period having witnessed battles and wars among the gods. In the Asiatic domains of Alexander, where reign fell into the hands of the general Seleucus and his successors, a similar effort to provide the Greek savants with a record of past events took place. A priest of the Babylonian god Marduk, Berosus, with access to libraries of clay tablets whose core was the temple library of Haran, now in southeastern Turkey, wrote down in 3 volumes a history of gods and men that began 432,000 years before the deluge, when the gods came to earth from the heavens, listing by name and reign, durations. Let me clear the throat.
Let me clear my throat.
Listing by name and reign durations, the first 10 commanders, Berosus reported that the first leader, dressed as a fish, waded ashore from the sea. He was the one who gave mankind civilization, and his name, rendered in Greek, was Oannes. Dovetailing in many details, both priests thus rendered accounts of gods of heaven who had come to earth, of a time when gods alone reigned on earth, and of the catastrophic deluge. In the fragmentary bits and pieces retained in other contemporary writings from the 3 volumes, Berosus specifically reported the existence of writings from before the Great Flood, stone tablets that were hidden for safekeeping in an ancient city called Sippar, one of the original cities established by the ancient gods. Though Sippar, as were other pre-diluvial cities of the gods, was overwhelmed and obliterated by the deluge, a reference to the pre-diluvial writings surfaced in the annals of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal.
Yeah.
668 to 633 BC. When the archaeologists, I didn't say that right at all. When the archaeologists in the mid-19th century found the ancient Assyrian capital in Nineveh, until then known only from the Old Testament, they discovered in the ruins of Ashurbanipal's palace a library with the remains of some 25,000 inscribed clay tablets. An assiduous collector of olden texts, Ashurbanipal boasted in his annals, "The god of scribes has bestowed on me the gift of the knowledge of his art. I have been initiated into the secrets of writing. I can even read the intricate tablets in Sumerian. I understand the enigmatic words in the stone carvings from the days before the flood." He was granted the knowledge, the sight.
Yep, they call this the writings of Adam. They call them the knowledge of Adam, because Adam was taught everything they knew, how to read, how to write, and all the magic, everything of the earth. Adam was actually the one that was the one in charge of recording every plant and animal on the planet. That is crazy. We're going to get into all that.
Hey, good babies. It is now known that the Sumerian or Sumerian civilization had blossomed in what is now Iraq, almost a millennium before the beginning of the pharaonic age of Egypt, both to be followed later by the civilization of the Indus Valley in the Indian subcontinent. It is now also known that the Sumerians were the first to write down the annals and tales of gods and men, from which all other peoples, including the Hebrews, obtained the tales of creation, of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, the deluge, the Tower of Babel, and of the wars and loves of the gods, as reflected in the writings and recollections of the Greeks, Hittites, Canaanites, Persians, and Indo-Europeans. As all these olden writings attest, their sources were even earlier texts, some found, many lost. The volume of such early writings is staggering. Not thousands, but tens of thousands of clay tablets have been discovered in the ruins of the ancient Near East. Many deal with or record aspects of daily life, such as trade or workers' wages and nuptial contracts. Others, found mostly in palace libraries, constitute royal annals. Still others, discovered in the ruins of temples, libraries, or of scribal schools, constitute a group of canonized texts, a secret literature, that were written down in the Sumerian language and then translated to Akkadian. the first
Greek.
Semitic language, and then other ancient languages. And even in those early writings, going back almost 6,000 years, references are made to lost books, text inscribed on stone tablets. Among the incredible, to say fortunate does not fully convey the miracle, finds in the ruins of ancient cities and their libraries are clay prisms inscribed with the very information about the 10 pre-diluvial rulers and their 432,000 years of total reign to which Berosus had referred, known as the Sumerian king lists. And on were you passing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And on
and on display in the Ashmolean Museum, Oxford, England. Their several versions leave no doubt that their Sumerian compilers had access to some earlier common or canonized textual material. Coupled with other equally early texts discovered in various states of preservation, they strongly suggest that the original recorder of the arrival, as well as of preceding events and certainly of following events, had to be one of those leaders, a key participant, an eyewitness.
Now imagine we have this stuff today, right? This is what the Roman Catholic Church didn't get a hold of. Imagine when it came out and they're like, okay, we have to make a press call. Aliens are real. Other worlds are real. We're just waiting for them to come visit. They made that announcement. Aliens are real.
One who had been an eyewitness to all those events, indeed a key participant in them, was the leader who had splashed down with the first group of astronauts. At that time, his epithet name was E.A., he whose home is water. He experienced the disappointment of having command of Earth mission given to his half-brother and rival, Enlil, Lord of the Command, a humiliation little mitigated by granting him the title Enki, Lord of Earth, relegated away from the cities of the gods and their spaceport in the Eden, to supervise the mining of gold in the Abzu, southeastern Africa. It was Enki, a great scientist, who came across the hominids who inhabited those parts. And so when the Anunnaki, toiling in the gold mines, mutinied and said, no more, it was he who realized that the needed manpower could be obtained by jumping the gun on evolution through genetic engineering. And thus did the Adam, literally he of the earth, earthling, come into being.
625 here. Sorry.
Come into being. Okay. As a hybrid, the Adam could not procreate. The events echoed in the biblical tale of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and in the Garden of Eden record the second genetic manipulation by Enki that added the extra chromosomal genes needed for sexual procreation. And when mankind, proliferating, did not turn out the way it had been envisaged, it was he, Enki, who defied his brother Enlil's plan to let mankind perish in the deluge. The events whose hero has been called Noah in the Bible and Zisudra in the earlier original Sumerian text.
Now, that's actually kind of true, but not quite true, because they first made the Adam, the Adamu or some shit. That was the primitive worker male. Then they had to keep making these males. They're like, hey, man, I'm tired of spitting these babies out. And like, we need a female. So they created a female. Then they tried to make them have sex, but they were not procreating. They couldn't procreate. So they had to put them back in the lab, fix them again. Right. So that was the second manipulation, but that was the primitive worker still. And then later in the Adam and Eve story, he found those two black chicks at the side of the pond. It was like, wiggle, wiggle, but it folds. And he was like, wham, wham. And he went to town on that shit and created the Adam and the Eve. You know what I'm saying? The Adam and the even. Do we even need Adam? You know what I'm saying?
The firstborn son of Anu, Nibiru's ruler, Ea Enki, was well versed in his planet's Nibiru and its inhabitants' past. An accomplished scientist, he bequeathed the most important aspects of the advanced knowledge of the Anunnaki, especially to his two sons, Marduk and Ningizida, who, as Egyptian gods, were known there as Ra and Thoth, respectively. But he also was instrumental in sharing with mankind certain aspects of such advanced knowledge. by teaching two selected individuals the secrets of the gods. In at least 2 instances, such initiates wrote down, as they were instructed to do, those divine teachings as mankind's heritage. One, called Adapa, and probably a son of Enki by human female, is known to have written a book called Writings Regarding Time, one of the earliest lost books. The other, called Enmeduranki, was in all probability the prototype of the biblical Enoch, the one who was taken up to heaven after he had entrusted to his sons the book of divine secrets, and of which a version has possibly survived in the extra biblical book of Enoch.
Now here, you heard that. The book of divine secrets. Why, if you were a religious person, would you not involve yourself with the book of Enoch? You just heard what it says there. That was the book of divine secrets. But you don't want to hear because you don't think it's the truth. But Enoch talked to your God. That was who it was. That was the leader of the command. Enlil, right? That means the leader of the command. Enki means leader of earth, right? His real name was Ea. What's Enlil's real name? Yeah.
Though the firstborn of Anu, he was not destined to be his father's successor on the throne of Nibiru. Complex rules of succession, which reflected the convoluted history of the Nibiruans, gave that privilege to Enki's half-brother, Enlil. In the effort to resolve the bitter conflict, both Enki and Enlil ended up on a mission to an alien planet, Earth, whose gold was needed to create a shield for preserving Nibiru's dwindling atmosphere. It was against that background, made even more complex by the presence on Earth of their half-sister Ninarzag, the chief medical officer of the Anunnaki, that Enki decided to defy Enlil's plan to have mankind perish in the deluge.
Yep. Hi.
The conflict carried on between the two half-brothers' sons, even among their grandchildren. The fact that all of them, and especially those born on Earth, faced the loss of longevity that Nibiru's extended orbital period provided, added personal agonies and sharpened ambitions.
Now you heard that. It went from the two half-brothers to their sons to their grandsons, right? Now we're going to learn about who the hell are all these people. Who's Thor? Who is Thor? Well, we're going to find out.
It all came to a climax in the last century of the 3rd millennium BC when Marduk, Enki's firstborn by his official spouse, claimed that he and not Enlil's firstborn, Ninurta, should inherit the earth. The bitter conflict that included a series of wars led in the end to the use of nuclear weapons. The ensuing, though unintended, result was the demise of the Sumerian civilization.
Absolutely.
The initiation of chosen individuals into the secrets of the gods had marked the beginning of priesthood, the lineages of mediators between the gods and the people, the transmitters of the divine words to the mortal earthlings. Oracles, interpretations of divine utterances, were commingled with the observation of the heavens for omens, and as mankind was increasingly drawn to take sides in the godly conflicts, prophecy began to play a role. Indeed, the term to denote such spokesmen of the gods who proclaimed what was to come, Nabi, was the epithet for Marduk's firstborn. Nabu, who had tried, on behalf of his exiled father, to convince mankind that the heavenly signs bespoke the coming supremacy of Marduk. These developments sharpened the realization that one must distinguish between fate and destiny. The proclamations of Enlil, sometimes even of Anu, that used to be unquestioned, were now subject to the scrutiny of the difference between Nam, a destiny, like the planetary orbits, whose course had been determined and was unchangeable, and Nam-Tar, literally a destiny that could be bent, broken, and changed, which was fate. Reviewing and recalling the sequence of events and the apparent parallelism between what had happened on Nibiru and what took place on Earth, Enki and Enlil began to ponder philosophically what indeed was destined and could not have been avoided, and what was just fated as a consequence of right or wrong, decisions, and free choice. The latter could not be predicted, the former could be foreseen, especially if all, as the planetary orbits, was cyclical. It was if what was shall be again be.
Hold on, we heard it there, right? Planetary orbits are cyclical. Okay, just keeping some of this knowledge. You got to grasp it, keep it in there. You know, she keeps throwing out these key points, and you're gonna hear them later, and they're gonna go in deep discussion of. You're gonna probably hear some shit. You're like, wait, what? What? That's weird. Go ahead.
If the first things shall also be the last things. The climactic event of the nuclear desolation sharpened soul-searching among the leaders of the Anunnaki and raised the need to explain to the devastated human masses why it came to pass this way. What it destined, or what was it destined, or was it just the result of an Anunnaki-made fate? Was anyone responsible? Is there someone accountable? In the councils of the Anunnaki on the eve of the calamity, it was Enki who stood alone in opposition to the use of the forbidden weapons. It was thus important for Enki to explain to the suffering remnants how that turning point in the saga of extraterrestrials, who had meant well but ended as destroyers, had come to pass, and who but Ea and Enki, or Ea or Enki, same person, who was the first to come and an eyewitness to it all, was most qualified to tell the past so that the future could be divined. And the best way to tell it all was as a first-person report by Enki himself. That he had recorded his autobiography is certain, for a long text stretching over at least 12 tablets discovered in the library of Nippur quotes Enki as saying, "When I approached Earth, there was much flooding. When I neared its green meadows, heaps and mounds were piled up at my command. In a pure place I built my house. An appropriate name I gave it." The long text continues to describe how Enki then assigned tasks to his lieutenants, putting their mission to Earth in motion. Numerous other texts that relate varied aspects of Enki's role in the ensuing developments serve to complete Enki's tale. They include a cosmogony, an epic of creation, at whose core lay Enki's own text, which scholars call the Eridu Genesis. They include detailed descriptions of the fashioning of the atom. They describe how other Anunnaki, male and female, came to Enki in his city Eridu to obtain from him the Me, a kind of data disk that encoded all aspects of civilization. And they include texts of Enki's private life and personal problems, such as the tale of his attempts to attain a son by his half-sister Ninarzag, his promiscuous affairs with both goddesses and the daughters of man, and the unforeseen consequences thereof. The Atra Hesis, though text, throws light on Anu's efforts to prevent a flare-up of the Enki-Enlil rivalries by dividing Earth's domains between them, and texts recording the events preceding the deluge render almost verbatim the debates in the Council of the Gods about the fate of mankind and Enki's subterfuge known as the Tale of Noah and the Ark, a tale known only from the Bible until one of its original Mesopotamian versions was found in the tablets of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Sumerian and Akkadian clay tablets, Babylonian and Assyrian temple libraries, Egyptian, Hittite, and Canaanite myths, and the biblical narratives are the main body of written down memories or the affairs of gods and men. For the first time ever, this dispersed and fragmented material has been assembled and used by Zecharia Sitchin to recreate the eyewitness accounts of Enki, the autobiographical memoirs and insightful prophecies of an extraterrestrial god. Presented as a text dictated by Enki to a chosen scribe, a book of witnessing to be unsealed at an appropriate time, it brings to mind Yahweh's instructions to the prophet Isaiah, 7th century BC. Now come, write it on a sealed tablet, as a book engrave it. Let it be a witnessing until the last day, a testimony for all time. In dealing with the past, Enki himself perceived the future. The notion that the Anunnaki, exercising free will, were masters of their own fates, as well as the fate of mankind, gave way in the end to a realization that it was destiny that, when all was said and done, determined the course of events. And thereof, as the Hebrew prophets had recognized, the first things shall be the last things. The record of events dictated by Enki thus becomes a foundation for prophecy, and the past becomes the future. That was your introduction to the Lost Book of Enki and what it is about.
Yes, yes. Very, very interesting points there.
And the next,
noticed she was speaking a lot about Marduk.
Yeah.
And how that's when split comes in. You know what I mean? And we're going to find out who's really in charge. You're going to find out that there was pyramids on North America. Ra was here, man.
Ra was here.
Ra was here.
Imagine finding that on the side of a mountain somewhere. Ra was here.
It is there. It was there.
It was.
And they carved 4 fucking presidents on that mountain. That's what they did. They carved the face of presidents in that very same mountain.
Something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have the attestation. The words of Endupsar, master scribe, son of Eridu city, servant of the Lord Enki, great God. In the 7th year after the great calamity, in the 2nd month, on the 7th day, I was summoned by the master, the Lord Enki, great God, benevolent fashioner of mankind, omnipotent and merciful. I was among the remnants of Eridu who had escaped to the arid steppe just as the evil wind was nearing the city. And I wandered off into the wilderness to seek withered twigs for firewood. And I looked up, and lo and behold, a whirlwind came out of the south. There was a reddish brilliance about it, and it made no sound. And as it reached the ground, 4 straight feet spread out from its belly, and the brilliance disappeared. And I threw myself to the ground and prostrated myself, for I knew that I was a divine vision.
Okay, so now...
It was a divine vision.
So now, the first thing you hear is this dude lives in the city of Lord Enki, that of his creation. Okay, so you learn that they are in control of cities, them personally. And he says they know him as the great fashioner of mankind. He created mankind. So, in the Book of Lies are they worshiping Enki? Do you think that they worship Lord Enki? I don't. Okay. Now, what else do we learn? He was gathering sticks for some fucking weird thing. And what happened? A great whirlwind came. A red light with no sound came rushing to the ground. And then 4 fucking legs came out of the belly. He says it, the belly. It's a spaceship. Goddamn spaceship landing right in front of his face. Right there. Boom. Go ahead.
For I knew that it was a divine vision. And when I lifted my eyes, there were 2 divine emissaries standing near me, and they had the faces of men, and their garments were sparkling like burnished brass. And they called me by name and spoke to me, saying, "You are summoned by the great God, the Lord Enki. Fear not, for you are blessed. And we are here to take you aloft and carry you unto his retreat in the land of Magan, on the island amidst the river of Magan, where the sluices are."
Yep.
And
what are sluices, everybody? Anybody doing any mining? Y'all doing any mining? So he's got a great retreat. Lord Enki's got this great retreat, right? We're going to find this geographically, even if it's under the fucking water, right? Where the sluices were, right? So what did they talk about Atlantis? It was where they fucking refined the metals, right? Where the sluices were, right? I'm just fashioning that. Maybe it's not true. Maybe it is. We're going to discover. But he had this retreat where the sluices were. So he was washing, particles down sluice boxes and collecting minerals, right? Is what he was doing. So this place was fucking cool. Imagine these big fucking giant sluices where they're mining gold and shit. Hell yeah. Jay Mike, what up?
And as they spoke, the whirlwind lifted itself as a fiery chariot, and it was gone. And they took me by my hands, each one grasping me by one hand. And they lifted me and carried me swiftly between the earth and the heavens, as the eagle soars. And I could see the land and the waters, and the plains and the mountains. And they let me down on the island at the gateway of the great God's abode. And the moment they let go of my hands, a brilliance as I had never seen before engulfed and overwhelmed me, and I collapsed on the ground as though voided of the spirit of life. My life's senses returned to me as if awakened from the deepest sleep by the sound of the calling of my name. I was in some kind of an enclosure. It was dark, but there was also an aura. Then my name was called again by the deepest of voices. And although I could hear it, I could not tell whence the voice came, nor could I see whoever it was that spoke. And I said, "Here I am." Then the voice said to me, "Endupsar, offspring of Adapa, I have chosen you to be my scribe, that you write down my words on the tablets." And all at once there appeared a glowing in one part of the enclosure, and I saw a place arranged like a scribal workplace, a scribe's table and a scribe's stool, and there were finely shaped stones upon the table. But I saw no clay tablets nor containers of wet clay, and there lay upon the table only one stylus, and it glistened in the glowing as no reed stylus ever did. And the voice spoke up again, saying, "Endupsar, son of Eridu city, my faithful servant, I am your Lord Enki. I have summoned you to write down my words, for I am much distraught by what has befallen mankind by the great calamity. It is my wish to record the true course of the events, to let gods and men alike know that my hands are clean. Not since the great deluge had such a calamity befallen the earth and the gods and the earthlings, but the great deluge was destined to happen. Not so the great calamity. This one,
Go ahead.
This one 7 years ago need not have happened. It could have been prevented, and I, Enki, did all I could to prevent it. Alas, I failed.
So 7 years ago, some calamity happened that he's talking about, this Endupsar. Now listen, you heard him. Those beings got back into their spaceship. They took off, those feet raised up, and in a flash, they were gone as in the fiery chariot. And then he said they grabbed his arms and lifted him up and flew him across the whole fucking place, and then gently let him down and let go of his arms. That was a tractor beam. They literally got back in that ship and flew up in the sky and tractor beamed his ass up in the sky and flew his ass that way. Imagine that shit. But to his mind, they could have even projected this into his mind that they were holding his hands. But I'm just thinking, to a feeble-minded person or somebody who don't know what the hell they're looking at, they described a perfect spaceship, but don't say spaceship. They think it's the actual being itself. And then poof, that thing turns into the two people that he's standing there in front of. And then those two people go and become that thing again and fly up in the sky and then grab his hands. That's how they thought of it. It's because it's how they describe it. They never said, well, he shot at them and beat them a light that picked me up. You know, I was just floating through the air. Because they would say that. They're very specific when they say things. So it's how they really see it. You know what I mean? It's how they think it is. Go ahead. Like they call them birds and shit.
They didn't know what they were looking at. I love how he can see what they're depicting. You know, the belly and the legs, the ship belly and the legs of it landing. Like it's they write it in a way that you got to really kind of read between the lines and really kind of picture what this could be and look like in their eyes and how they're depicting it and how they know how to depict it. You know, their limited ability versus what we know, you know.
Yeah. Top Family Farms. What up? Hamley New. Sorry. Hey, listen. So if you were a famous painter, like back in the day or anytime, you know, and I read that passage to you and said, paint me a picture based on what I just read you. And I guarantee you would write or you would draw like a man in type robes holding a pile of sticks in his hand, looking at a spaceship in a cloud with a red glowing ball and 4 legs. I guarantee it. I guarantee that's what anyone would draw. But that's pretty fascinating, though. It's all right there.
Okay. And I, Enki, did all I could to prevent it. Alas, I failed. And was it fate or was it destiny in the future?
Teamwork makes the dream work. Oops, sorry. She still wanted something.
I wasn't done.
I want to choke her out, Oh, get me.
It's a little tight,
Oh, it is.
In the future shall it be judged, for at the end of days a day of judgment there shall be. On that day the earth shall quake, and the rivers shall change course, and there shall be darkness at noon, and a fire in the heavens in the night. The day of the returning celestial God it will be. And who shall survive, and who would perish? Who shall be rewarded, and who shall be punished? Gods and men alike.
So hold on 1 second. So you just heard them there. Lord Enki, their so-called God, they worship this dude as a god, and the creator of humanity is saying to this servant of his, the descendant of Adam, right? He was one of Adam's children, right? So he's telling him, hey, the earth is going to shake. All this shit's going to fuck up. Then everything's going to fall and break, and lava's going to pour out of the fucking ground when the celestial God comes to the crossing, right? Comes to the crossing, right? What crossing are we talking about? This celestial God is a planet. It's going this way, and Earth is going to go this way. And once they get close to each other, get ready to shake, rattle, and roll, people, because this place is going to get destroyed. And it's happened 4 times. What are we, in the 5th age of humanity or something like that? Let's keep going.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Who shall be rewarded, and who shall be punished? Gods and men alike. On that day shall it be discovered. For what shall come to pass by what had passed shall be determined. And what was destined shall in a cycle be repeated. And what was fated, and only by the hearts, will occurring for good or ill, shall for judgment come. The voice fell silent. Then the great Lord spoke up again, saying, It is for this reason that I will tell the true account of the beginnings, and of the prior times, and of the olden times. For in the past the future lies hidden. For 40 days and 40 nights shall I speak and write, and you will write. 40 shall be the count of the days, and the nights of your task here. For 40 is my sacred number among the gods. For 40 days and 40 nights you shall neither eat nor drink. Only this once of bread and water you shall partake, and it shall sustain you for the duration of your task. And the voice paused, and all at once there appeared a glowing in another part of the enclosure. And I saw a table, and upon it a plate and a cup. And I rose up there too, and there was a bread on the plate and water in the cup. And the voice of the great Lord Enki spoke up again, saying, And Upsar, eat the bread and drink the water, and be sustained for 40 days and 40 nights. And I did as directed. And therefore the voice directed me to sit myself at the scribal table. And the glowing there intensified. I could see neither door nor aperture where I was, yet the glowing was as strong as the midday sun. And the voice said, And Upsar, the scribe, what do you see? And I looked and saw the glowing raid upon the table, and the stones and the stylus. And I said, I see stone tablets, and their hue is blue, as pure as the sky. And I see a stylus as I have never seen before, its stem unlike any reed, and its tip shaped like an eagle's talon. And the voice said, These are the tablets upon which you shall inscribe my words. By my wish they have been cut of the finest lapis lazuli, each with 2 smooth faces provided. And the stylus you see is a god's handiwork, its handle made of electrum, and its tip of divine crystal. It shall firmly fit your hand, and what you shall engrave with it shall be as easy as marking upon wet clay. In 2 columns you shall inscribe the front face, in 2 columns you shall inscribe the back of each stone tablet. Do not deviate from my words and utterances. And there was a pausing, and I touched one of the stones, and the surface thereof felt like a smooth skin, soft to the touch. And I picked up the holy stylus, and it felt like a feather in my hand.
So he had a frequency pen. He had a pen with vibrating crystal as a tip. Y'all know what vibranium is. Come on, don't be playing with me and shit. It's the precursor to the fucking lightsaber, or the one before the lightsaber. You know what I'm saying? Moses had the lightsaber. But this was their pen. They could write on anything, the hardest surface. They got lapis lazuli. That's your firmament, you guys think. Go ahead.
And then the great god Enki began to speak, and I began to write down his words exactly as he had spoken them. At times his voice was strong, at times almost a whisper. At times there was joy or pride in his voice, at times pain or agony. And as one tablet was inscribed on all its faces, I took another to continue. And when the final words were spoken, the great God paused, and I could hear a great sigh. And he said, Endupsar, my servant, for 40 days and 40 nights you have faithfully recorded my words. Your task here is completed. Now take a hold of another tablet, and on it you shall write your own attestation. And at the end thereof, as a witness, mark it with your seal, and take the tablet and put it together with the other tablets in the divine chest. For at a designated time chosen ones shall come hither, and they shall find the chest and the tablets, and they shall learn all that I have dictated to you, and that true account of the beginnings, and the prior times, and the olden times, and the great calamity, shall henceforth be known as the words of the Lord Enki. And it shall be a book of witnessing of the past, and a book of foretelling the future, for the future in the past lies, and the first things shall also be the last things. And there was a pause, and I took the tablets and put them one by one in their correct order in the chest. And the chest was made of acacia wood, and it was inlaid with gold on the outside. And the voice of my Lord said, Now close the chest cover and fasten its lock. And I did as directed.
There's an ark.
Yep. And there was another pause, and my Lord Enki said, And as for you, Endupsar, with the great God you have spoken, and though you have not seen me, in my presence you have been. Therefore you are blessed, and my spokesman to the people you shall be. You shall admonish them to be righteous, for in that lies a good and long life. And you shall comfort them, for in 70 years the cities will be rebuilt, and the crops shall sprout again. There will be peace, but there will also be wars. New nations will become mighty. Kingdoms shall rise and fall. The olden gods shall step aside, and new gods shall decree the fates. But at the end of days, destiny shall prevail, and of that future it is foretold in my words about the past. Of all that, Endupsar, to the people you shall tell. And there was a pause and a silence, and I, Endupsar, bowed to the ground and said, But how will I know what you say? And the voice of the Lord Enki said, The signs will be in the heavens, and the words to utter shall come to you in dreams and in visions. And after you there will be another chosen prophets. And in the end there will be a new earth and a new heaven, and for prophets there will be no more need. And then there was silence, and the auras were extinguished, and the spirit left me. And when I regained my senses, I was in the fields outside Eridu. Seal of Endupsar, Master Scribe.
That was his Astarakabalaba. Attestation. Now here, check it out. They said that time for us on this planet is cyclical, like a cyclical, like a cycle, right? And it is, but it's not actually round. It's actually elliptical, because our time is based on when that planet, that sun, it's actually a sun, it's a brown dwarf, right? It's around our area now. I've seen tons and tons and tons of videos and pictures of another sun right next to our sun. There was a time when it came past our planet, and either you went this way, you took the red pill, or you took the blue pill. And you might not have people around you that you used to have, and they took the different pill than you took. And maybe you're awake and they're still asleep thinking they're awake. And maybe it's the other way around, but it happened and it's coming back around. So here, check this out. In past history, when the sun came flying past, it's called Nibiru, and it has maybe 7, but it used to have 11 different moons. They call it a moon, but we would call it planets, because if it's a sun, it would have planets around it, right? Maybe those planets have life, but those planets become weapons and they destroy planets, right? They destroy the planet in the past, and that's another history that we're going to hear about. And one of them hit our moon at one point, and that's why I believe when they go and find the moon and they say that's like dust, I believe the moon burnt. I believe what we see as the moon is ash of whatever rock. Imagine what a crystal ash would be like. I don't know, high fucking temperature. Who fucking knows? No oxygen. It's burning real low. Like you ever put the flame on your sock and then burn it, or the fuel in your sock and then burn it. The flame stays real low and shit. So maybe it's like that. There's not a lot of oxygen. But what I see when I look at the moon and how they describe it, it seems like ash to me. And when you research what flew across our sky, there's this dragon they always talked about flying through the sky, and it hit our moon and burned the moon. The whole moon was on fire. It burned from that spot and went all the way around. So I'm looking at ash of some sort. Whatever rock was there, it's ash and it's luminescent like a motherfucker. Because they talk about the moon being there forever. It's always been there. It's always been stuck to this exact magnetic point in this part of chunk of Earth. And it used to be part of a wholly different planet. But when it was part of that planet, that moon was stuck to this part of that planet. And when this part flew across the damn solar system, this moon came with it. Like they're connected. You know, like it's how it's written. I'm not saying I was there, but it sounds crazy as shit. But it's written that it's always been there. It's always been attached to our Earth in that exact same spot. You know, it's never not been there. So there's a lot of legends about the moon, right? There's a lot of legends about our planet. There's a lot of legends about God. And I call them legends. If you call every other thing mythology and legend, and you don't call Christianity and our modern religion mythology, then you can't play in the same playing field if it's not even. You know, it's got to be fair until it's all proven, because I don't know any of you that I've ever met any gods, any angels in person. You might say, I've had the Holy Spirit all up in me. That's cool and dandy. That's fine. You ever seen him in flesh, though? You ever see a dude walk around saying, I'm God, I'm Jesus and shit, and like it's for real? Like, that's what I'm talking about. We don't know the absolute 100% truth. So we need to research every aspect of everything. And I'm not saying this is everything. I'm saying this is where I choose to start. Mm-hmm. So we start at the creation. When did something first say they came here? And this is the first time people recorded, you know, in our history of us being this human that we are. Of course, we have other cultures that talk about other aliens that came, but guess what? That culture, that human culture, is talking about other aliens that came here. The culture, the humans were already created. You see what I'm saying? This is the first culture that came here and created us, right? Created humankind. And know when they created us, those people were all melanated, dark, black, whatever color you want to call them. I'll call them brown because they ain't black. They're blurple sometimes, and they're real dark or real light skin, like she is melanated in her. You know, they can be all the way from yellow to brown. They consider white people not to be melanated, but man, I got a lot of freckles. And all I know is I'm the same DNA, and I'm O motherfucking negative. So if you die, I could give you blood, all of you motherfuckers. So don't count me out. I'm your blood bag.
He is, though.
I'm your blood bag, motherfucker. I'm medical.
It's funny that we're actually the same but opposite. And funny enough, twin flames, here we go again, right? He's O positive, I'm O negative.
Oh, am I O positive?
Or whatever it is.
I'm O negative.
Whichever one's negative and positive, I'm the other
Whatever one can give blood to everybody, that's what I am.
That's him. That's he is. All right, so that was the introduction and the attestation of the scribe who is scribing the entire lost book of Enki. We're going to continue on to the first tablet now. We got a little bit more to go.
And let me just interject one more time and realize that in this depiction, right, they're going to talk about the god, right? And the god is damn Nibiru coming by and destroying this planet. It's done it 4 times in so-called recorded history, like the Mayans, the Incas. They called it the 4th age of man. And they would ask him, well, what happened to the other man? They said, or other human, what happened to the other mankind? They said, it's been destroyed by this planet that comes by and fucks this planet up. And they call the continental drifts, the melting of the ice sheets, all this shit happened from that planet, dude. Go ahead.
All right.
Let's listen.
So the first tablet, okay,
There's
a couple of
bear sitting on
really cool symbols I wanted to show you
the
before we
tablet.
begin. Okay, those say depictions of Nibiru as a radiant planet. So those are the depictions of the ancients of the Anunnaki, I imagine.
See how it looks
their
like
planet.
a cross? See, notice the cross. That's not just somebody just drew that. So when you look up in the sky and you see stars, right? Everyone says those aren't stars, those are pond puddles and blah, blah, blah. If you look at Nibiru, that's what Nibiru looks like. So those people were looking up and they would see a cross in the sky. And it was known as the crossing when it crossed through our plane, you know, of our solar system and shit. You see it's a double cross in there. It's a cross. That's where we get the cross from. They actually worshipped. We're going to research this down that rabbit hole too, that they worshiped this planet as their God, and they called it the crossing. And Jesus died on the crossing, not on a cross, because at that time, research it, they killed motherfuckers on X's. They stapled people to trees, right? But in an X form. They didn't even use a cross at that exact time in history. Research.
All right, so first we go with the synopsis of the first tablet, which if you're not sure what synopsis means, it's basically just a summary of what you're going to be hearing. Real quick, this is what is going to be all up in there. So, synopsis of the first tablet. Lamentation over the desolation of Sumer. How the gods fled their cities as the nuclear cloud spread. The debates in the council of the gods. The fateful decision to unleash the weapons of terror. The origin of the gods and the awesome weapons on Nibiru. Nibiru's north-south wars, unification, and dynastic rules. Nibiru's place in the solar system. A dwindling atmosphere causes climate changes. Efforts to obtain gold to shield the atmosphere fail. Alelu, a usurper, uses nuclear weapons to stir volcanic gases. Anu, a dynastic heir, deposes Alelu. And Alelu steals a spacecraft and escapes from Nibiru.
Yes. So we could research all these, and I wish I had a fucking big board. They were super fucking expensive, so I could never afford it. So I could show you, like, where Nibiru is compared to where we're at, blah, 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 blah. If you're into the flat earth thing, please stay. Please, just listen. Pay attention. Because you're going to learn what planet shape we're having. Let's go.
The first tablet. The words of the Lord Enki, firstborn son of Anu, who reigns on Nibiru. With heavy spirit I utter laments. Laments that are bitter fill my heart. How smitten is the land, its people delivered to the evil wind, its stables abandoned, its sheepfolds emptied. How smitten are the cities, their peoples piled up as dead corpses, afflicted by the evil wind. How smitten are the fields, their vegetation withered, touched by the evil wind. How smitten are the rivers, nothing swims anymore, pure sparkling waters turned into poison. Of its black-headed people, Shumer is emptied, gone is all life. Of its cattle and sheep, Shumer is emptied, silent is the hum of churning milk. In its glorious cities, only the wind howls, death is the only smell. The temples whose heads to heaven arose by their gods have been abandoned. Of lordship and kingship command there is none. Scepter and tiara are gone. On the banks of the two great rivers, once lush and life-giving, only weeds grow. No one treads the highways, no one seeks out the roads. Flourishing Shumer is like an abandoned desert. Now smitten is the land, home of the gods and men. Oh, that land a calamity fell, one unknown to man. A calamity that mankind had never seen before, one that could not be withstood. On all the lands from west to east, a disruptive hand of terror was placed. The gods in their cities were helpless as men. An evil wind, a storm born in a distant plain, a great calamity wrought in its path. A death-dealing wind born in the west, its way to the east has made, its course set by fate. A storm devouring as the deluge, by wind and not by water, a destroyer, by poisoned air, not tidal waves overwhelming. By fate, not destiny, was it engendered. The great gods, in their council, the great calamity had caused. By Enlil and Ninarzag, it was permitted. I alone for a halt was beseeching. Day and night to accept what the heavens decree, I argued, to no avail. Ninurta, Enlil's warrior son, and Nergal, my very own son, poisoned weapons in the great plain, then unleashed. That an evil wind shall follow the brilliance we knew not. They now cry in agony. That the death-dealing storm, born in the west, its course to the east shall make. Who could foretell? The gods now bemoan. In their holy cities, the gods stood disbelieving as the evil wind towards Shumur made its way. One after another, the gods flood their cities, their temples abandoned to the wind. In my city, Eridu, as the poison cloud approached, I could do nothing to stop it. Escape to the open steep. To the people I gave instructions. With Ninki, my spouse, the city I abandoned. In this city, Nippur, place of the bond heaven, earth, Enlil could do nothing to stop it. The evil wind against Nippur was onrushing. In its celestial boat, Enlil and his spouse hurriedly took off. In Ur, Shumer, city of kingship, thank you. In Shumer's city of kingship, Nanar to his father Enlil for help cried. In the place of the temple, Nanner to his father Enlil for help cried. In the place of the temple that to heaven in 7 steps rises, Nanner, the hand of fate, refused to heed. My father who begot me, great God, who of had granted kingship, turn the evil wind away, Nannar pleaded. Great God who decrees the fates, let and its people be spared. Your praises to continue, Nannar appealed. Enlil answered his son Nannar, noble son, your wondrous city kingship was granted. Eternal reign it was not granted. Take hold of your spouse, Ningal, flee the city. Even I who decree fates, its destiny I cannot bend. Thus did Enlil my brother speak. Alas, alas, not a destiny it was. A calamity none greater since the deluge gods and earthlings has befallen. Alas, not a destiny it was.
Let me stop you real quick right there. So you see, they caused this great calamity. And even still, their sons and shit, and the people were crying up to them, going, hey, God, help me, Lord, help me. And they were like, hey, listen, not even I, the decreer of fates, can help you. You're fucked. Because he wasn't God. But you see, even at this time, who is declaring himself as the God, the decreer of fates, who decides what happens? You see what I'm saying? So go ahead.
The great deluge was destined to happen. The great calamity of the death-dealing storm was not.
Yep.
By the breach of a vow, by a council decision it was caused. By weapons of terror it was created. By a decision, not destiny, were the poison weapons unleashed. By deliberation was the lot cast.
Let me stop you right there. So right here, just keep this in your mind, okay? They say the deluge, right? The deluge was the flood, okay? The deluge was destined. It was not fate. Fate you can control, destiny you can't, right? So fate the deluge, the flood happened because their planet came too close to our planet, which ripped the fucking magnetism apart and started rocking our planet with earthquakes and shit, melted our polar ice caps, right? So that was going to happen unless someone knocked the planets out of the way real quick. You know what I mean? That was never, you couldn't change that. But fate decreed them using these nuclear weapons, right? They could have chose not to, but they did. And they caused this. So just keep that in your mind, that when in the Bible, when they say, you know, God created this flood, and God didn't create shit. He didn't create damn thing. A planet came too close to ours and rocked our shit. Just keep that in your mind as we go on. You're going to hear all the evidence later on, but just that they gave you that little tiny tidbit piece. They gave you these little pieces all the time. You got to pull them out and say, what they say? Wait till you hear about when they built this city and they talk about that city was for the upright ones. Well, hold on. Are they not upright? That's my next question. We got to find this shit out. Are they lizards walking on fours? I mean, shit. Let's go.
Against Marduk, my firstborn, did the 2 sons destruction direct. Vengeance was in their hearts. Ascendancy is not Marduk's to grasp, Enlil's firstborn shouted. With weapons I shall oppose him, Ninur said. Of people he raised an army, Babili as Earth's navel to declare. Nergal, Marduk's brother, so shouted. In the council of the great gods, words of venom were spread. Day and night I raised my opposing voice. Peace, I counseled, deploring haste. For the second time the people have raised his heavenly image. Why does opposing continue? I asked in pleading. Have all the instruments been checked? Did not the era of Marduk in the heavens arrive? I once more inquired. Ningazida, my very son, other signs of heaven cited. His heart I knew, Marduk's injustice to him could not forgive. Nanar, I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Nanar, that's it.
Nanar, to Enlil on earth born, was unrelenting too. Marduk, my temple in the north city, his own abode made, so he said. Ishkur, Enlil's youngest, punishment demanded. In my lands to whore after him the people he made, he said. Utu, son of Nanar, at Marduk's son Nabu, his wrath directed. The place of the celestial chariots he tried to seize. Inanna, twin of Utu, was furious of all. The punishment of Marduk for the killing of her beloved Dumuzi, she still demanded.
Who? Dumuzi?
The punishment of Marduk for killing of her beloved Dumuzi, she still demanded. Ninarzag, mother of gods and men, her gaze diverted. Why is not Marduk here? She only said. Gibil, my own son, with gloom replied. Marduk has all entreaties put aside. By the signs of heaven, his supremacy he claims. Only with weapons will Marduk be stopped, Ninurta, Enlil's firstborn, shouted. Utu, about protecting the place of the celestial chariots, was concerned. In Marduk's hands it must not fall, so he said. Nergal, lord of the lower domain, ferociously was demanding, let the olden weapons of terror be obliteration be used.
So hold on. So it's fucking mind-bending.
It's insane.
Check this shit out. Y'all didn't catch that shit, did ya? So we got these goddamn national monuments over there in fucking Washington, wherever the fuck they're over there. You know, we got this thing called the Grand Canyon. They say that thing got washed out when the flood came, right? And they said this is all ruins and mountains and shit, right? And check this out. We know way different now. We know way different because check it. They said the evil wind originated from a faraway plane from the west. Well, they considered them to be here. So if you're from the west, that's like a whole different fucking continent, right? And then they say the whole purpose they use these weapons was to fucking kill Marduk and stop him from what he was doing. What was he doing? Where was he? He was in the United States, North America, and Canada, right? He was trying to take over South America and take over the gold mines. He was building and taking over all the spaceports. He was building new spaceports, heaven to earth bonds. You heard it, right? Heaven to earth bond. What is that? I thought there was a firmament. Oh, I don't know. But they can't. It was hard for them to get shit off the planet. It took a lot of energy, right? So they made a heaven to earth bond that could basically shoot them straight off the planet out into space. And then from there, they can go off to Mars. We're going to learn about that shit later. Heaven to earth bond. It had nothing to do with the fucking tower or nothing like that. It was a spaceport. They could shoot off like a rocket ship, rocket fucking boosters and shit, you know, like our launch pads down in Florida and shit. He was building this. He literally was building Egypt in America. Go around, look around, man. Look, just take the United States and pan back a little bit. Look at all the places we got: Morocco, Egypt. We got everything here. Jerusalem, everything is here, and it's because it's always been here. Pyramids are here. All these things that they're finding now, these big mounds, and they're actually pyramids and all this shit that's here. All these electrical grids and shit. Marduk built them. He took a female wife. Go ahead. What's this?
At my own son, I gazed in disbelief. For brother against brother, the terror weapons have been forsworn. Instead of consent, there was silence. In the silence, Enlil opened his mouth. Punishment there must be. Like birds without wings, the evil doer shall be.
Oh, yeah. Who is the guy from the underground?
Nergal, Lord of the Lower Domain.
So Nergal, Lord of Hell. Lord of Hell, right? Lord of the Lower Domain, right? Inner Earth. Inner Earth. The Lord of Inner Earth says, yo, bring out those fucking nukes and start blasting each other. They're in the inner earth. It ain't gonna fucking affect them. They want them fuckers dead. And we're gonna find out why they would do that to us, man. Come on, let's see it.
Marduk and Nubu, us of heritage, are depriving. Let them of the place of the celestial chariots be deprived. Let the place be scorched to oblivion, Ninurta shouted. The one who scorches, let me be. Excited, Nergal stood up and shouted, let the evildoer cities also be upheavaled. The sinning cities let me obliterate. Let the annihilator my name thereafter be. The earthlings, by us created, must not be harmed. The righteous with the sinners must not be perished, I forcefully said. Nanarzag, my creating helpmate, was consenting. The matter is between the gods alone to settle. The people must not be harmed. Anu, from the celestial abode, to the discussions was giving much heed. Anu, who determines fates from his celestial abode, his voice made heard.
Anu, from his celestial house. Sorry. His star house, right? His fucking planet house. He was in a mothership in space, right? So he commanded Enlil, who was in charge of the spaceports and shit on the planet Earth, right? Now he was saying, listen, make sure that people aren't harmed, but you guys can kill each other. Don't harm the people, right? Did they not know what they was working with? We're talking about nukes here. Shit. Let's hear what they gotta say.
Let the weapons of terror be this once used. Let the place of the rocket ships be obliterated. Let the people be spared. Let Ninurta the scorcher be. Let Nergal be the annihilator. So did Enlil the decision announce. To them, a secret of the gods I shall reveal. The hiding place of the terror weapons to them I shall disclose. The two sons, one mine, one his, to the inner chamber Enlil summoned. Nergal, as he went by name, his gaze averted. Alas, I cried out without words, brother has turned against brother. Are the prior times fated to repeat? A secret from the olden times to them Enlil was revealing, the weapons of terror to their hands entrusting. Clad with terror, with a brilliance they are unleashed. All they touch to a dust heap they turn. For brother against brother on earth they were forsworn, neither region to affect.
Now, how does he know where these nukes are? We're going to find that out.
Now the oath was undone, like a broken jar in useless pieces. The two sons, full of glee, with quickened step from Enlil's chamber, emerged for the weapons departing. The other gods turned back to their cities. None of his own calamity had a foreboding. Now this is the account of the prior times, and of the weapons of terror. Before the prior times was the beginning. After the prior times were the olden times. In the olden times, the gods came to the earth and created the earthlings. In the prior times, none of the gods was on this earth, nor were the earthlings yet fashioned. In the prior times, the abode of the gods was on their own planet, Nibiru, is its name. A great planet, reddish in radiance around the sun, an elongated circuit Nibiru makes. For a time in the cold is Nibiru engulfed. For part of its circuit by the sun strongly is it heated. A thick atmosphere Nibiru envelops by volcanic eruptions constantly fed. All manner of life this atmosphere sustains. Without it, there will be only perishing. In the cold period, the inner heat of Nibiru, it keeps about the planet like a warm coat that is constantly renewed. In the hot period, it shields Nibiru from the sun's scorching rays. In its midst, rains it holds and releases to lakes and streams, giving rise. Lush vegetation our atmosphere feeds and protects. All manner of life in the waters and on the land to sprout it caused. After eons of time, our own species sprouted, by our own essence and eternal seed to procreate. As our numbers grew, to many regions of Nibiru our ancestors spread. Some tilled the land, some four-legged creatures shepherded. Some lived on the mountains, some in the valleys their home made. Rivalries occurred, encroachments happened, clashes occurred, sticks became weapons. Clans gathered into tribes, then two great nations each other faced. The nation of the north against the nation of the south took up arms. What was held by hand to thrusting missiles was turned. Weapons of thunder and brilliance increased the terror. A war long and fierce engulfed the planet. Brother amassed against brother.
So you heard there was 4-legged creatures, all different types of creatures there, right? That were humanoid. What kind were the 4-legged ones, though? Were they lizards and shit?
No.
Were they horses? What if they were horses? Goats. They were probably goats. For the ram head. Wow! What are they? Oh, God, that'd be crazy. Nipple rings and shit.
Oh, my gosh. There was death and destruction, both north and south. For many circuits, desolation reigned the land. All life was diminished. Then a truce was declared. Then peacemaking was conducted. Let the nations be united, the emissaries said to one another. Let there be one throne on Nibiru, one king to reign over all. Let a leader from north or from south by lot be chosen, one king supreme to be. If he to be from north, let south choose a female to be his spouse, as equal queen to reign alongside. If by lot a south male be chosen, let the north female be his spouse. Husband and wife let them be, as one flesh to become. Let their firstborn son be the successor. Let a unified dynasty thus be formed, unity on Nibiru forever to establish. In the midst of the ruins, peace was started. North and south by marriage were united. The royal throne into one flesh combined, an unbroken line of kingship established. The first king after peace was made, a warrior of the north he was, a mighty commander. By lots, true and fair, was he chosen. His decrees in unity were accepted. For his abode he built a splendid city, Agad maybe?
Agad.
A-G-A-D-E. Agad. Unity meaning was its name. For his reign a royal title he was granted, and it was the Celestial One was its meaning. With strong arm order in the lands he reestablished, laws and regulations he decreed. Governors for each land he appointed. Restoration and reclamation was their foremost task. Of him in the royal annals, thus it was recorded, and the lands unified. Peace on Nibiru he restored. He built a new city. The canals were repaired. He repaired. Food to the people he provided. There was abundance in the lands. For his spouse, the south a maiden had chosen. For both love and warring she was noted. An, too, was her royal title, the leader who is An's spouse. The given name cleverly did mean. She bore An 3 sons and no daughters. The firstborn son was by her name An. By An, a solid foundation was its meaning. Alone on the throne he was seated. A spouse to choose was twice postponed. In his reign, concubines were brought into the palace. A son to him was not born. The dynasty thus began was by the death of Anki disrupted. On the foundation, no offspring followed.
Yeah.
The middle son, though not the firstborn, was legal heir. The legal heir was pronounced. From his youth, one of 3 brothers, Ib by his mother was lovingly called. The one in the middle his name did mean. By the royal annals, An Ib he is named. In kingship celestial, by generations, the one who is An's son, the name signified. He followed his father on Nibiru's throne. By count, he was the 3rd to reign.
So, real quick, remember, okay, An is the first king. An, too, is his first queen from the south, right? All kinds of different creatures, so they could be all kinds of who knows what's, right? We don't know this for sure yet, okay? Now, no heir came forth. Okay, that doesn't mean no one was born. Just no heir came forth when they were calling for one because the chick died. They couldn't have no more kids. So they're like, hey, they found a 3rd born, and that's who we're talking about here. His line are the new successors going forth. Okay.
The daughter of his younger brother he chose to be his spouse. Ninib she was called, the Lady of Ib. A son to Anib by Ninib was born. The successor on the throne he was, the 4th by the count of kings. By the royal name An Shar Gal, he wished himself to be known. An's prince, who is greatest of princes, was the meaning. His spouse, a half-sister, Ki Shargal, was equally named. Knowledge and understanding were his chief ambition. The ways of the heavens he assiduously studied. The great circuit of Nibiru he studied, its length a shar to be he fixed. As 1 year of Nibiru was the measure, by it the royal reigns to be numbered and recorded. The shar to 10 portions he divided, 2 festivals thereby he pronounced. When nearest to the sun's quarters, a festival of the warmth was celebrated. When to its far abode, Nibiru was distant, the festival of coolness was decreed.
So they have 10 months, and they determine their cycle around the sun of 1 year is a shar, and they got it split up into 10 different sections or months.
When to its far abode and Nibiru was distant, the festival of coolness was decreed, replacing all olden festivals of tribes and nations. To unify the people, the two were established. Laws of husband and wife, of sons and daughters, by decree he established. Customs from the first tribes he proclaimed for the whole land. From the wars, females greatly outnumbered males. Decree he made, 1 male to have more than 1 female for knowing.
Hell yeah. Now here's where it comes. Where do we get this shit from, right? Now here's your harem, right? They decreed there were so many females after the war. The dudes have slaughtered each other, right? They look so pretty. And so they determined, hey, man, you're going to have a whole bunch of wives for 1 dude. So there's where we get our harem from, right? They passed down that shit from heaven.
By law, 1 wife as official spouse to be chosen, first wife to be called. By law, the firstborn son was his father's successor. By these laws, confusion soon came about, if the firstborn son not by the first wife was born. And thereafter, by the first wife, a son was born. What was that for?
Said you ever tickle you till you almost pee?
No, don't do that.
Don't do that again. That's great.
And thereafter, by the first wife, a son was born. By law, the legal heir becoming. Oh, wait, I got to back up. By law, the first son born was his father's successor. By these laws, confusion soon came about. If the firstborn son, not by the first wife, was born, and thereafter by the first wife, a son was born, by law, the legal heir becoming. Who shall be the successor? The one by the count of Shar's firstborn? The one by the first wife born? The firstborn son? The legal heir? Who shall inherit? Who shall succeed? In the reign of Anshargal, Kishargal, his first wife was pronounced, a half-sister of the king she was. In Anshargal's reign, concubines were again brought into the palace. By the concubines, sons and daughters to the king were born. A son by one was the first to be born. The son of a concubine was the firstborn. Thereafter, Kishargal bore a son. The legal heir by law he was. The firstborn he was not. In the palace, Kishargal raised her voice in anger, shouting, "If by rules my son, by a first wife born, from succession shall be barred, let the double seed not be neglected, though of different mothers, of one father the king and I are of offspring. I am the king's half-sister, of me the king is half-brother. By that my son the double seed of our father Anib possesses. Let henceforth the law of the seed, the law of espousal, overpower.
Yep.
Let henceforth a son by a half-sister, whenever born, above all other sons, rise to succession."
This is where the incest came into play on our planet, and it was all about blood and all about who was more powerful. Because, you know, when they passed down the kingship of heaven, they made specific people that was, you know, demigods. They were more of the god than us. They had more of their DNA than us, which made them DNA perfect and better than us. That was able to control us and rule over us. So they knew that. They knew they had the DNA from the gods. So they had to keep it fresh. So they kept it under their same rule of marrying inbred, you know, and it's gone so far that now we come up with genetic impurities, you know, with different kinds of stuff.
Anshargal, contemplating the law of the seed, embraced with favor. Confusion of spouse and concubines, of marriage and divorce, by it would be avoided. In their council, the royal councillors of the law of the seed for succession adopted. By the king's order, the scribes the decree recorded. Thus, the next king by the law of the seed for succession was proclaimed. To him, the royal name Anshar was granted. Fifth on the throne he was. Now, this is the account of the reign of Anshar and the kings who followed. When the law was changed, the other princes were contending. Words there were, rebellion there was not.
Yep. They couldn't do shit. That was the law. They knew if they challenged the law, they would die. Right? So this law becomes very important and very obsessive in the future because they want to make sure their kids are in the right order to be rulers. Even though like Enki can't be a ruler, he could possibly set it up so his kid will be over Enlil's kid. See? And that's what he tries to do in the future. It's very important, this law of succession, law of seed.
As his spouse Anshar, a half-sister, chose, he made her first wife by the name Kishar. She was called. Thus was by this law the dynasty continued. In the reign of Anshar, the fields diminished their yields, fruits and grains lost abundance. From circuit to circuit, nearing the sun, heat grew stronger. In the faraway abode, coolness was more biting. In Agad, the throne city, the king, In Agad, the throne city, the king, those of great understanding, assembled. Learned savants, those of great knowledge. Savants, those of great knowledge to inquire were
scientists.
The land and the soil they examined, the lakes and the streams they put to the test. It has happened before, some gave an answer. Nibiru in the past, colder or warmer, has grown. A destiny it is in the circuit of Nibiru embedded. Others of knowledge the circuit observing. Nibiru's destiny to blame did not consider. In the atmosphere, a breaching has occurred. That was their finding. Volcanoes, the atmosphere's forebears, less belching, were spitting up. Nibiru's air has thinner been made. The protective shield has been diminished. In the reign of Anshar and Kishar, pestilences of field made appearance. Toil could them not overcome. Their son Anshar, then the throne ascended. Of the dynasty, the sixth he was. Lordly master of the Shar, the name did signify. With great understanding he was born. With much learning he mastered much knowledge. To remedy the afflictions, ways he sought. Of Nibiru's heavenly circuit he made much study. In its loop of the sun's family, 5 members it embraced, planets of dazzling beauty. For cures to the afflictions, their atmospheres he caused to be examined. To each he gave a name. Ancestral forefathers he honored. As heavenly couples he them considered. An and Antu, the twin-like planets, he called the first 2 to be encountered. Beyond in Nibiru's circuit were Anshar and Kishar, in their size the largest. As a messenger, Gaga was among the others coursed, sometimes first Nibiru to meet. 5 in all were Nibiru's heavenly greeters as the sun it circled. Beyond, like a boundary, the hammered bracelet the sun encircled.
You guys are getting this, right? So this is a planet inside of our solar system, right? Inside of our 9 planets. This is another planet out there that's circling our sun, okay? It goes way out in other places probably too, but it circles our sun. That's like home base. So as it's coming through our solar system and ripping through, there's this scientist. He's like a prince, or was he the king? He's super interested in fixing this problem. So he's studying all these different things as the Shar, the planet comes around the sun. So he's saying all these different planets that he's seeing, all their beauty and radiance. And he said sometimes there's this little Gaga that they meet first, and that's Pluto. You know what I'm saying? That's the shower of the way, right? So they're going through us. They're ripping through our solar system, dude. It's cool as hell, man. Imagine how many times, though, they fucked up other planets and didn't even know it. They don't know it. They don't know. But what if that's the breach in the atmosphere? And them getting close to planets.
They're getting too close. They're accidentally hitting shit, and they don't even know it.
They don't even know it because it's the sun burning the fuck out of shit.
As a guardian of the heavens' forbidden region with havoc it protected, other children of the sun, 4 in number, from intrusion the bracelet shielded. The atmospheres of the 5 readers Enshar set out to study. In its repeating circuit, the 5 in Nibiru's loop carefully were examined. What atmospheres they possessed by its observation and with celestial chariots intensely were examined. The findings were astounding, the discoveries confusing. From circuit to circuit, Nibiru's atmosphere more breaching suffered. In the councils of the learned, cures were avidly debated. Ways to bandage the wound were urgently considered. A new shield to embrace the planet was attempted. All that was thrust up back to the ground came down. In the councils of the learned, the belching volcanoes were studied. The atmosphere by belching volcanoes have been created. Its wound by their diminished belching had come to be. Let with invention new belching be encouraged. Let volcanoes spew again, one savant group was saying. How the feat to achieve, with what tools were belching to attain, none the king could inform. In the reign of Enshar, the breach in the skies grew bigger. Rains were withheld, winds blew harder, springs from the depths did not rise. And the lands there was an accusation, the breasts of mothers were dry. In the palace there was distress, and accusation therein took hold. As his first wife, Enshar, a half-sister, did espouse, by the law of the seed abiding. Ninshar, she was called, the Shars of the Shars, the lady, a son she did not bear. By a concubine to Enshar a son was born, the firstborn son he was. By Ninshar, first wife and half-sister, a son was not brought forth. By the law of succession, the concubine's son, the thrones ascended. The 7th to reign he was. Du-Uru was his royal name.
Du-Uru.
In the dwelling,
Mother bitch.
in the dwelling place fashioned was its meaning. Everything okay over there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. In the house
Cheers.
in the house of concubines,
Looney, what up?
not in the palace, was he indeed
Cheers.
conceived. As his spouse, a maiden from his youth, beloved Duru chose by love, not by seed, a first wife he selected. Da-Uru was her royal name. She who is by my side was the meaning. In the royal court, confusion was rampant. Sons were not heirs, wives were not half-sisters. In the land, suffering was increasing. The fields forgot their abundance. Among the people, fertility was diminished. In the palace, fertility was absent. Neither son nor daughter was brought forth. Of An's seed, 7 were the rulers. Then of his seed, the throne was dry. Dwaru, a child at the palace gateway found. As a son, she embraced him. Duru, in the end, as a son, him adopted. Legal heir him decreed. Lama, meaning dryness, was his name given. In the palace, the princes were grumbling. In the council of counselors, there were complaints. In the end, Lama, the throne ascended.
Can you imagine?
Though not of An's seed, he was the 8th to reign.
He was adopted just from somewhere.
He was found on the streets. She liked him.
But there were shit tons of princes and princesses. Princes and princesses were so many you could throw a stone and hit 25 of them. There were so many concubines. Those were whores, different chicks that they would come and bang. And they were really horny people. They had sex a lot. You'll find out. They had sex unstoppably. But, I mean, they were always naked. So, I mean, you know, that would be hard not to
Right?
Not to wanna.
In the councils of the learned, to heal the breach, there were 2 suggestions. One was to use a metal. Gold was its name. On Nibiru, it was greatly rare. Within the hammered bracelet, it was abundant. It was the only substance that to the finest powder could be ground. Lofted high to heaven, suspended it could remain. Thus, with replenishments, the breach it would heal, protection make better. Let celestial boats be built. Let a celestial fleet the gold to Nibiru bring over. Let weapons of terror be created, was the other suggestion.
Spaceships and nukes.
Weapons that the ground shake loose, the mountains split asunder. With missiles, the volcanoes to attack, their dormancy to bestir, their belching to increase.
So they want to shoot nuclear bombs into the mouth of their volcanoes and have them explode down into the lava pool to make them erupt more so that they build the atmosphere. Because if y'all don't know, that's how the atmosphere gets built.
the atmosphere to replenish, the breach to make disappear. For a decision, Lama was too feeble. What choice to make, he knew not.
Oh, till then.
One circuit Nibiru completed. 2 shars Nibiru to count continued. In the fields, affliction was not diminished. By volcanic belching, the atmosphere was not repaired. A 3rd shar passed. A 4th was counted. Gold was not obtained. In the land, strife was abundant. Food and water were not abundant. In the land, unity was gone. Accusations were abundant. In the royal court, savants were coming and going. Counselors were rushing in. Savants were coming and going. Counselors were rushing in and rushing out. The king to their words paid no attention. Counsel from his spouse he only sought. Lahama was her name. If destiny it be, let us beseech the great creator of all. To the king she said, beseeching, not actings, provide the only hope. In the royal court the princes were astir. At the king's accusations were directed. Foolishly, unreasoning, greater calamities instead of cure he brought forth. From the olden storehouses weapons were retrieved. Of rebellion there was much speaking. A prince in the royal palace was the first to take up arms. By words of promise, the other princes he agitated. Alelu was his name. He let Lama be the king no more, he shouted. Let decision supplant hesitation. Come, let us unnerve the king in his dwelling. Let him the throne abandon. The princes to his words gave heed. The gate of the palace they rushed. To the throne room, its enhanced, restricted. Like onrushing waters they went. To the tower of the palace the king escaped. Alelu was him pursuing. In the tower there was a struggle. Lama fell down to his death. Lama is no more, Alalu shouted. The king is no more. With glee he announced. To the throne room Alelu rushed. On the throne he himself seated. With right or counsel, a king he himself pronounced.
Boom.
In the land unity was lost. Some by the death of Lama rejoiced. Others by Alelu's deed were saddened.
Yeah.
Now this is the account of the kingship of Alelu and of the going to earth. In the land unity was lost. About the kingship many were aggrieved. In the palace princes were agitated. In the council counselors were distraught. From father to son, succession from on the throne continued. Even Lama, the 8th, by adoption, a son was proclaimed. Who was Alelu? Was he a legal heir? Was he firstborn? By what right did he usurp? Was he not a kingslayer? Before the 7 who judge, Alelu was summoned, his fate to consider. Before the 7 who judge, Alelu spread his pleas. Though neither legal heir nor a son firstborn, of royal seed indeed he was. Of Anshargal I am a descendant. Before the judges he claimed. By a concubine my ancestor was to him born.
So they have the 7 who judge. Right? No God yet. There's still no God.
Elam was his name. By the count of Shars, Elam was the firstborn. The throne to him belonged. By conniving, the queen his rights put aside. A law of the seed from naught she created, for her son the kingship obtained. Elam of kingship she deprived, to her son instead it was granted. By descent of Elam's generation am I continued. The seed of Anshargal is within me.
So the original beginning where the queen bitched because the concubine had the firstborn.
She had a better bloodline.
Exactly.
A harder bloodline with being half sister.
So they dethroned that prince and said, okay, your prince is good, but then that prince never forgot he was supposed to be the king. So here's them coming back.
The 7 who judged to Alelu's words gave heed. To the council of counselors they passed the matter, truth or falsehood to ascertain. The royal annals from the House of Records were brought forth. With much care they were read. On and onto the first royal couple were 3 sons, and no daughters to them were born. The firstborn was Anki. He died on the throne. He had no offspring. The middle son in his stead the throne descended. Anib was his name. Anshargal was his firstborn. The throne he ascended. After him, on the throne, kingship by the firstborn did not continue. The law of succession by the law of the seed was supplanted. A concubine's son was the firstborn. By the law of the seed of kingship he was deprived.
Bam.
The kingship instead to Kishargal's son was granted. Her being a half-sister of the king was the reason. Of the concubine's son, the firstborn, the annals made no record. Of him I am descended. Alelu to the counselors cried out, by the law of succession to him kingship belonged. By the law of succession to kingship am I now entitled. With hesitation, the counselors of Alelu an oath of truth demanded. Alelu swore the oath of life or death. As king, the council him considered. They summoned the elders, they summoned the princes. Before them, the decision was pronounced. From among the princes, a young prince stepped forward. About the kingship words he wished to say. Succession must be reconsidered. To the assembly he said, though neither firstborn, no, nor by the queen, a son of pure seed am I descended. The essence of On in me is preserved, by no concubine diluted. The counselors heard the words with amazement. The young prince to step closer they summoned. They asked for his name. It is Anu, after my forefather On am I named. They inquired about his generations. Of On's 3 sons, he them reminded. Anki was the firstborn. Without son or daughter, he died. Anib was the middle son. Instead of Anki, the throne he ascended. Anib, the daughter of his younger brother, took to be wife. From them onward, the succession is the annals recorded. Who was that younger brother of son of On and Antu, one of the purest seed? The counselors with wonderment looked at each other. Enuru was his name. Anu to them announced, he was my great ancestor. His spouse, Ninuru, was a half-sister. Her son was firstborn, and Nama was his name. His wife was a half-sister. By laws of seed and succession, as a son she bore him. Of pure descent, the generations continued. By law and by seed,
half-sister, 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 son, half-sister.
Anu, after our forefather On, did my parents name me. From the throneship we were removed. From On's pure seed we were not removed. Let Anu be king, many counselors shouted. Let Alelu be removed. Others cautioned, did counsel. Let strife be prevented. Let unity prevail. They called in Alelu, the discovered findings to be told. To the prince Anu, Alelu his arm in embrace offered. To Anu he thus said, though my different offsprings of one ancestor, we are both descended. Let us live in peace, together Nibiru to abundance return. Let me keep the throne, let you keep the succession. To the council words he directed, let Anu crown prince be, let him be my successor. Let his son, my daughter espouse, let succession be united. Anu bowed before the council. To the assembly he thus declared, Alelu's cupbearer I shall be, his successor in waiting, a son of mine, a daughter of his, a bride shall choose. That was the council's decision. In the royal annals it was inscribed. In this manner, Alelu on the throne remained seated. He summoned the sages, savants, and commanders he consulted. For deciding he gained much knowledge. The celestial boats he constructed. He decided to seek the gold in the hammered bracelet, he decided.
So the sages would be like the wizards, right? The savants are the scientists, right? And then the what do they call them? What do they call them? The other ones.
Sages, savants, and commanders.
No.
Oh.
Well, commanders are people commanding armies, but the people who talk to him.
The 7.
No.
No, them not.
The people who I forgot the word they use, but it's people who go and like tell him, I think you should do this. I think you should do that.
The counselors.
The counselors, yeah, the counselors. So those are just normal counselors and shit. But that's what those different things are. And shit. So here we got a whole planet full of people, a whole entire planet. So when you think of the few gods and the pantheons of gods that were on this planet, there's an entire planet of these people, an entire fucking planet, a whole council, a whole fucking 7 who judge, and they came here and whooped some ass on some shit, and your guy was in the other side of the state. They got a whole planet of these people. They're trying to fix their planet right now, at this time in history. And they're using gold. They need gold, and they don't have gold. The gold's in short supply on their planet, right? So they know it's in the hammered bracelet, which is our asteroid belt between Earth and Mars. Okay. Is it Mars? No, it's Earth and Mars. Yeah. Between Earth and Mars. I believe. No, it's Mars and Jupiter. Wherever the fuck it is, right? There's 4 planets inside the damn asteroid field, right? So, they know it's in the asteroid field, and they know they could possibly fix their planet by blowing up their fucking lava and making it belch more. And then, so the whole time they're fighting over kingship and shit, the land's getting all fucked up because ain't no one paying attention to that. They're not trying to unify the country or the whole planet in fixing things. They're trying to, it's like today, we got government controlling one thing when everyone else sits there and we're complaining about things, but no one does anything. No one does anything. We just complain. And we're expecting the government to fix things. And why we get all these goddamn ideas and shit? No one fucking does shit. And then all they do is complain and bitch at them that they're fucking it up. Well, no one's doing anything. It's kind of like the same thing that's happening there. So here comes the pure seed of Anu's descendant, just the youngest son. He didn't get looked at for kingship. He got passed right by, but his pure DNA still existed. And that family, right, made sure the son that was born hooked up with the half-sister and had a kid. And that son hooked up with the half-sister and that son, and all the way down till Anu, right? Anu, we know Anu. Anu is written all over our damn plane of existence here on our flat fucking planet, right? With the round edges. And it spins.
By the hammered bracelets, the boats were crushed. None of them returned.
Damn it.
Let the weapons of terror, the bowels of Nibiru, be cut open. Let volcanoes again erupt, he then commanded. With weapons of terror, skyborne chariots were armed. With terror missiles from the skies where volcanoes struck. The mountains swayed, the valleys shuddered as great brilliances with thunder exploded. In the land there was much rejoicing. Of abundance there were expectations. In the palace, Anu was for Alelu the cupbearer. He would bow at Alelu's feet, set the drinking cup in Alelu's hand. Alelu was the king. Anu, as a servant, by him was treated. And the land rejoicing receded. Rains were withheld. Winds blew harder. The belching by volcanoes did not increase. The breach in the atmosphere did not heal. In the heavens, Nibiru, its circuits kept coursing. From circuit to circuit, heat and cold grew harder to suffer. The people of Nibiru ceased to revere their king. Instead of relief, misery he caused. Alelu on the throne remained seated. The strong and wise Anu, foremost among the princes, was standing before him.
He did absolutely nothing. He left it to everyone else.
He would bow to Alelu's feet, set the drinking cup in Alelu's hand. For 9 counted periods, Alelu was king on Nibiru. And the 9th Shar, Anu, gave battle to Alelu. To hand-to-hand combat with bodies naked, Alelu he challenged. Let the winner be king, Anu said. They grappled with each other in the public square. Doorposts trembled and walls shook. Alelu bent his knee. To the ground he fell on his chest. Alelu in combat was defeated. By acclaim, Anu was hailed as king. Anu to the palace was escorted. Alelu to the palace did not return. From the crowds he stealthily escaped. Of dying like Lama he was fearful. Unbeknownst to others, to the place of the celestial chariots he hurriedly went. Into a missile-throwing chariot Alelu climbed. Its hatch behind him he closed. The 4-part chamber he entered. The commander's seat he occupied. That which shows the way he lit up. With bluish aura the chamber filling. The firestones he stirred up, their hum like music was enthralling. The chariot's great cracker was enlivened. A reddish brilliance it was casting. Unbeknownst to others, in the celestial boat, Alelu from Nibiru escaped. The snow-hued earth, Alelu set his course. By a secret, from the beginning, he chose his destination.
All right, so now you heard all kinds of good shit. Right there, they talked about him dipping out and going to the place of the celestial chariots, the boats, right? So you hear right there, is describing how they talked about where their spaceships were. Okay. So when you get to this planet, it's going to be super important. You're like, how the fuck do you know that was where a spaceship was? Well, yeah, let's go back to the beginning. On their planet, that's where the fuck they parked their spaceships. And they said, this is where we park our spaceships. This is what it's called. Dude gets in a spaceship, closes the hatch, and starts up his fucking, you heard it, the fire crystals. The fucking thing is powered by crystals, right? The fucking engine's running on frequency, right? So it flies off through space. And he stole one of the terror weapons. He stole the spaceship that has the thunder weapons in it that they were blowing up. Can you imagine they described the brilliance of the thunder and shit of the fucking them blowing up?
My
Dude,
God.
that would be crazy, man.
It's amazing they all didn't blow up with it.
Up, you know?
No, I can't believe that didn't happen.
And so he heads off to what? Snow-hued Earth. That's very important. That's very important. It was snow-hued, right? Covered in snow. They're going to describe it in further on a different Ganja Gospel. And what's funny is I put that little point in there that on his planet he was doing nothing, right? But this whole
it's
time,
almost like he was waiting for him to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Just waiting for him to be like shut down by the people so that they would accept him. Anu did. That's what I was thinking. Never mind.
Well, no, Anu was coming no matter what. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they each king and prince, they have their own little blah blah blah. This guy ain't doing shit for our plan. I could do a better job, right?
Yeah.
That's all it was. But the dude, Alelu, the original king, Alelu, he had a trick up his sleeve the whole time. He knew about Earth this whole time, and we're going to research and learn later about how he knew what he had this little trick in his sleeve, and he could have saved his planet the entire fucking time, but never pulled it out until at last minute, and he absolutely had to because it was die or go find some gold. So he knew exactly where to go, and it's funny because it's written in the Atrahasis of what is the hammered bracelet, right? We're going to research that later on. Also, research what is the hammered bracelet. How do we get there? How did the Anunnaki know there was gold there? And why would they suspect if there's gold there would be gold on Earth? Are they connected? Were they one planet at one time? Where's the moon? What is the moon? Is it a starship? Is it hollow and there's people inside? Is it a big worm? What if it's a big worm?
Big worm.
This is another question I would like to ask you guys. If the moon goes through a cycle and there's an eclipse, how would you could you possibly say there's an actual dark side? There's never a dark side of the moon. It's just shaded. It's in shadow. Like when you look up and you see a crescent moon, a half moon, anything other than a full moon, tell me there's not a dark side that you're looking at right there. That's a dark side. Tell me that if you see a half moon, right, you're looking at a dark side. Tell me that other side that you can't see isn't in light. It is. It's in light. Whether it's flat, it's round, it's square, it's fucking triangular, but there's light on that side. I don't give a fuck what's back there. It's light on that side, just like there's light on the front, and then there's darkness on the front. Well, you can't see the dark side of the moon. Bullshit. I see it at least once a month for long periods of time. I'm always looking at it. Sometimes it glows really cool over there. Stuff. All right, everybody. I think that's about it for the Ganja Gospel for today. Yes. Thank you for the great readings of the Hippie Witch here. Hippie Witch did a fantastical job.
Some of those words are a little difficult, but yes, we will continue on with tablet 2. Is that what it is?
That's still tablet 1. That was only the beginning.
What's next? The second tablet is next. That was the end of the second. Yeah, the second tablet is next, guys.
Next for the second tablet.
Next week, next Ganja Gospel, second tablet. Should we read the synopsis and give them a sneak peek at the second tablet? No.
It's up to you.
That's up to you.
It's for next week.
It's for next week.
Yep.
Got to make sure you come next week and see what's going to happen.
Yep. So join us next week on the Ganja Gospel, and we'll be going over tablet 2, Samaritan tablets, and any other kind of thing that come across. If I get kicked out of church again, maybe we'll have some more questions about what you think is what. What do you believe, or what do you know? I want to know what people know versus what you believe, because it's two different things. If you believe something, you don't know it to be true. You just believe it on faith. And if you know something, you know it. It's true because you know it. It's the truth, right? So it's two different things. We want you to always keep in mind and understand that I'm not, hopefully she's not, trying to get you away from God. Just to understand what God truly is, what is our purpose here, and ascension is the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate goal, right? So,
Dork promo. All the dork stars.
All right, hell yeah. So, just a little bit, and then we'll see you guys next time.
Hey, you dorks, this is Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are listening to The Dorkening.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor, the voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time, and SpongeBob SquarePants. Meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love the Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh. And Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, this is Felissa Rose, and you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, it's Courtney Palm. We're shooting Death House, and you're watching The Dorkening.
This is Anthony Michael Hall, and you're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned, my friends are going to show you what entertainment's all about, baby.
The Dorkening.